Part 1, Rediscovering Your Dream. Chapter 1, Auto Mechanic to Life Mechanic. Mind like parachute, only function when open. Charlie Chan from Charlie Chan at the Circus. When people hear that guy, the one at the top of the huge marketing organization that has acquired more than 1 million customers, they often tell me, "You're not at all what I expected." They picture some slick super salesman, the kind stereotypically hawking used cars, furniture, or appliances, who tries to cajole someone into buying something they don't need or want. That's definitely not me. Here's one of the greatest keys to my success. I operate much more as an educator than as anything you might perceive as a salesperson. And one of the first principles people learn from me is, if they want to duplicate my success, it's this: talk only to people who are already interested in what you offer, or put in the negative. Never talk to people about what they are not truly interested in. In the perception of the masses, the instant you start talking about anything that's not already of interest to them, you are marked as a salesperson. Generally, people have such a strong negative reaction to sales that at the slightest hint of this, they run away. People love to buy, but most don't like to be sold. Nevertheless, a common complaint of new entrepreneurs occurs when they can't seem to find anyone who is interested in their amazing new product or service. This happens because they are talking instead of listening. "But I'm excited," they tell me. I advise them, show it, but don't say it. Unfortunately, most don't listen. Giving it forward. As you will see in this book, many of the principles I teach may seem strange at first, but I hope you will try on these ideas before rejecting them. The major distinction between what I do and what most people think of as sales and marketing is expressed in my slogan, giving it forward. I attract customers like a magnet, but finding ways to be of more than an ideal to strive toward. It is truly the mainspring of my success. Zig Ziglar put it this way: you can get whatever you want in life simply by finding ways to help other people get what they want and need. Many years ago, I began to offer my training and mentorship to anyone who wanted to learn what I was doing, to people who were not in my marketing organization, and even those who might be considered competitors. At that time, I had no idea that I was pioneering a trend that would become known as content marketing. Today, experts, consultants, and mentors in all fields have discovered that by offering value and content to their potential clients, they can build rapport and goodwill. In this way, potential customers or partners begin to know, like, and trust you as an expert, and this creates opportunity for future business relationships. Often people are skeptical about the service approach. How do you get the word out if you aren't always talking about your products and services? I teach people to listen more and talk less, to ask questions and listen carefully to the answers. This is not a sales technique. It's not just a big wind up to the final pitch. I teach listening rather as a sorting technique. The master skill in my profession is not persuading or closing, but effective sorting. Remember, the key is to speak only to those who are interested. For example, a guy has just started working with a new business, and someone close to him asks what kind of services he offers. He may think that the person is interested, but more likely the person is merely curious. Most people are curious. but at any given moment, most people are not interested. Those who are not interested now could become interested in the future when their circumstances are different. How you respond to their friendly, curious question today determines whether they will consider what you're offering at any time in the future. If you talk about your product or program today, when they are not interested, in most cases, you slam the door shut on that person permanently. Your effectiveness in sorting the truly interested from the merely curious will be among a handful of factors that determine your success. In spite of this harsh reality, I have successfully built massive customer bases for several companies, and I've taught many others to do the same. Fortunately, some 25 years ago, when someone approached me about an emerging business opportunity, I was truly interested. The guy who approached me violated all the principles that I teach, but it didn't matter because I was actively searching for a way to make money. And you can't say the wrong thing to the right prospect. But I'm getting way ahead of myself. Where it all began. In the mid 80s, 1980s, after a rough start, my family was finally moving in the right direction of my dreams. I've always loved cars, and I had landed a great job as a mechanic at a Toyota dealership in El Monte, California. People with my best interests in mind had told me the road to success meant getting a good education, finding a good job, and working hard. I went to a technical school to get an associate's degree and my ASE certification. Now I had the great job and I was working harder than I ever had. I was living in Southern California, so everything cost more than it did in Willingston, North Dakota, where I grew up. So I put in extra hours, got to work early, took shorter lunches, and stayed later than other mechanics. My hard work and dedication did get noticed, and I was invited to participate in Roger Penske's racing organization, where I got to apply and develop my particular brand of gear geek skills. In terms of my career as a mechanic, I didn't believe life could get any better. But soon I started to wonder how working so long and hard was ever going to lead to a better lifestyle. I was always taking time away from my wife and son and the personal things I love to do, but I was working on cars and my bills were getting paid. So I kept working and believing I was on the path to success. One day in the shop, the van slipped off a hoist and I panicked. I tried to stop it from falling. It didn't stop. Take note, my success has nothing to do with intelligence. The van landed on my leg, hyperextended my knee, and tore all my ligaments. All I can remember is that I went to the hospital in an ambulance, and when the doctor looked at me and saw there was a tourniquet around my leg, he said, "Oh my God, you're in trouble." Who wants to hear that from a doctor? I was in shock and a little bit of panic, but they did surgery and I survived. The doctor said I would not be able to work for quite a while and that I might not regain the full use of my leg. Sometimes, if you're lucky, when you're in bad situations, financial, health, relationship, etc., you become open minded. It shreds the ego. I had to go on workman's comp. My income of nearly 5,000 per month fell to 900 per month. I was okay for 30 days and even 60 days. Then at 90 days, the bill collectors start calling. Funny how banks don't care how well you did before. It only matters what you did last month. I hope it never happens to you, but many who are listening to this now know exactly what I'm talking about. So the bill collectors were asking, when do you expect to get us some money? And I'd reply as soon as I get some. I got to the point when they called me, I would say, is there any way you could call me back tomorrow morning at 7:30? They'd ask why, and I'd say, I got my electricity cut off, and if you call me, it will wake me up so I can go to a job interview. This went on for 6 months. Then they did an MRI and found out that they didn't get my leg totally fixed, and I had to go through another surgery. By then, I had started losing everything. I even pawned my toolbox. You often hear people say money can't buy happiness. That's true, but often the lack of money is the root of all kinds of misery. I pray to God you never wait to make a decision until you gets that bad, because this was my breaking point. I was driving home after picking up my son. A few blocks from our home, I pulled over and stopped. My 6-year-old son looked at me and said, Dad, if you just go up a couple more blocks and hang a left, our apartment is right there. I didn't know how to tell my son that I was hiding the car from the repo man. A day that turns your life around. I pray that something snaps before you get to such a desperate place. In that moment, as I sat in the car with my son, I drew a line in the sand and said, No more. I am not going to settle for this. I am going to find some way to provide for my family. I stopped doing the things that many people do. I was blaming the world. I was a victim, saying, Why does this have to happen to me? My life is so bad. The day that I finally said no more, my cousin's boyfriend, Sean, called me up. Robert, you need to take a look at this, he said. I'm really excited about a new way to make some money. I said, Tell me about it. He said, I met this guy who's making 60 grand a month. Come with me and meet him. I said, I'll come pick you up. Something extraordinary happened that day. As soon as I declared that I would find a way to make my life better, something shifted and opportunity came knocking. Do you know what I'm talking about? When it's the right time in your life, everything starts to click. At 7 o'clock sharp, I pick up Sean. To my surprise, he was wearing a sport coat and a tie. Here's a guy I've seen wear a tie only to weddings and funerals. I was wearing a biker jacket and I had a slit down my leg of my jeans so that it would fit over my full cast. Sean said we were meeting this guy at a hotel and I started to get uncomfortable. I thought we were going to have coffee with this rich guy, and instead I found myself sitting in a presentation at a hotel with about 50 other people. Many of them were dressed in their Sunday clothes. I found seats in the back of the room so I could use an extra chair to prop up my leg. All sorts of questions went through my mind. If this guy has all these ideas and secrets about making money, why is he telling other people about it? Though my circumstances had opened my mind a bit, I was still skeptical, even suspicious. I was so intrigued by the idea of a guy making 60 grand a month that I stayed, but I sat there with my arms crossed, listening for the catch. Most of what Mr. Gould had to say conflicted with everything I was taught about being successful. I had always been told that my ability to climb the corporate ladder depended 100% on my own efforts. Mr. Gould drew a simple diagram to illustrate how the typical company resembles a pyramid, with one president sitting on top of a handful of vice presidents and directors. These in turn sit upon a layer of managers over another layer of supervisors. At the bottom is the largest group, the worker bees. Having lost my ability to work as a mechanic, I realized my only hope of survival in the corporate structure was to move up that narrowing ladder. Then Mr. Gould said a couple of things that really got in my head. He pointed out that all the positions in the corporate pyramid are currently filled. For me to move up would require someone else to quit, get fired, or die. Clearly, other factors beyond my personal efforts played a part in my opportunity to climb this ladder. Mr. Gould made an interesting observation about how we imagine our path to success up the corporate ladder can lead toward unlimited income and opportunity. He called this idea a fantasy, like finding gold at the end of a rainbow. Mr. Gould explained that employees at all levels of corporation exchange their time for a paycheck. They can improve their skills and value to the company and earn a higher hourly wage. But the amount they can earn will always be limited by the amount of time they are able to work in a week. Even professionals, such as doctors and lawyers, are subject to the limitations of the number of hours they can bill to clients. Mr. Gould pointed out that, unlike employees, a business owner's earnings are not limited by the number of hours he can work. He held up a small book by the world's first billionaire, J. Paul Getty, and said the secret to making a fortune, according to Getty, was in employing other people. Mr. Gould quoted from Getty, "I'd rather earn 1% from the efforts of 100 people than 100% of my own." Mr. Gould added his own insight. You own your own job is proof that at some point someone took the risk to start a business. They created your job so that they could hire you at wholesale and sell you at retail to make a profit. When I heard that, I was angry, but I knew he was right. My service center billed labor to its customers at a rate of $35 per an hour, and they paid me $12.50 an hour. Then Mr. Gould let the other shoe drop. He asked, when you finally when finally you have climbed the ladder all the way to the top, do you think the person who owns that business, the person who took the risk and created your job, will just say, congratulations for climbing the ladder. Now I'm going to make you the owner so you can profit from the efforts of all of these people whose jobs I created. That would be nonsense, wouldn't it? Even the greatest job, so long as you're working for somebody else, can never offer unlimited opportunity. Then Mr. Gould asked a question that changed my life. Instead of starting at the bottom of the ladder and clawing your way to the top, he asked, why not start at the top and build a huge workforce of your own? That idea was at once inspiring and outrageous. My head was reeling, but Mr. Gould didn't let up. Next, he made an assertion that the options for making money in business are quite limited. Either invent or manufacture a new product or service, requiring a considerable investment of capital, or find a more efficient way to deliver goods and services. He drew another diagram consisting of 6 boxes strung together in a line like boxcars on a train. The first box, he said, represents manufacturer, and the last box represents the consumers. The 4 boxes in between represent all the middlemen of the traditional distribution system. If you don't have any idea for a new mousetrap or you don't have the capital to get into manufacturing, Mr. Gould said, you better find a more efficient and cost-effective way to get products into the hands of customers. Look at the fortunes made in recent years by stores like Walmart, Price Cup, which is now Costco. What have they done? They've cut out the middleman. That's what we do too. We look for products that people want and need, products that solve problems and make a difference in people's lives. Then we take those products straight from the manufacturer to the customers, cutting out the middleman and pocketing the middleman's profits. We invent other people to help us with this. We invite other people and we reward them according to their results. Many of his insights made sense, but they also left me angry. Why didn't I learn this in school or from my parents? I wondered, where are we supposed to get this knowledge? Almost like he heard my thoughts, Mr. Gould asked the girl, how many of you were born with an owner's manual? I certainly wasn't. My dad had a job, so when I was old enough, I got a job too. When nobody told me was that you don't own a job owns you. What nobody told me was that you don't own a job owns you. You can own a business, but when all you have ever known is a job, you have a very limited understanding about how businesses actually work. He went on to suggest that the most business owners don't have any interest in employees learning how to be business owners. Owners want employees to be contented as employees. Mr. Gould held up a couple of other books and said something amazing. The best kept secrets of the richest people are not secrets at all. You can have them for a few dollars by reading their books. This book taught me the secret to wealth lies in the power of compound interest, how small investments over time become great assets, getting paid over and over like a royalty for work I do once. That's amazing stuff. There are these are the true owner's manuals. If you want to be an owner instead of a worker all your life, then you have to work or learn from owners. That evening, something popped in me, and I determined to learn to be a business owner. I became a dedicated student of business. I started to read business books and learn everything I could about success. You'll find some of the greatest treasures of my research in the appendix in the back of this book. Mr. Gould's presentation was funny and interesting, though I was seated in the last row. When the presentation ended, I made a beeline to the front of the room. I may not have looked like the most likely person to succeed, yet to my surprise, Mr. Gould patiently answered all my questions. Though he had opened my eyes to new paths of success, I still found it hard to believe that I could make money from other people's efforts using his business model. Mr. Gould could tell I was skeptical, so he reached into his pocket and pulled out his paycheck from the previous month. It was still attached to the stub. That really opened my eyes. This guy was making so much money, he could afford to go a month without depositing his check. It's funny how our egos can mess with us. I was thinking, I'm just a car mechanic, and this guy must be better educated and more talented than me. So I asked what he did before he started in this business. When he replied, I installed car stereos, it was all over. I was an ASE certified auto mechanic. I had an associate's degree. That's when the magic happened. I said to myself, if this guy can do it, I can do it. I asked Mr. Gould in all earnestness, could I make $10,000 in my first month? It's not likely, he said, but it's possible if you are coachable and do exactly as I tell you to do. I was utterly hooked. I'll leave the details for a later chapter, but let me tell you, I achieved that first unlikely goal. It's been said there are two great motivators in life, inspiration and desperation. Fortunately, my desperation overcame my ego, and I humbled myself and did exactly as Mr. Gould told me to do. And it worked. I've been blessed to achieve several amazing goals over the past 25 years. And though we've since parted ways, I will always acknowledge my first mentor for making it all possible. Thank you, Mr. Gould. I've been able to bring along a few friends and family members on this amazing journey. Not all chose the same path. I've also gained many wonderful new friendships along the way. But now, when I go out for meals with friends, we no longer take out our calculators to figure out who owes what. Now I have to put up quite a fight to pay for a meal. So when folks ask me if my business is all about making more and more money, I say no. It's about surrendering myself with financially successful people and family so they can pay for everything. Okay, questions for reflection, discussion, and action. Number one, would you describe yourself as being either curious or interested when it comes to seeking new sources of income? Number two, when has a bad situation left you with an open mind? Number three, have you had what Jim Rohn called a day that turns your life around? What happened and what changed? Number four, have you ever suspected you've somehow lost touch with your dreams and deepest desires? What might it take to bring them back to life? And number five, what will it take for you to draw the line in the sand that moves you in the right direction? And will you do it now?